Hey everybody, so this week's math lesson is going to be about relating decimals and fractions. So we talked about tenths and hundredths last week, where when you have a fraction over 10, it's out of 10 parts. Fraction over hundredths, it's over 100 parts. So today we're going to do a little bit of relating money so that we can kind of see how decimals work. So we'll get started with this one problem. So it says Max has 248 pennies. How many whole dollars does Max have? And then the next part says what fraction is left over. Okay, so Haley, how many pennies are in one whole dollar? That's right, 100. So if we have 100 pennies, okay, that is equal to one. And watch this, I'm going to put a decimal point here. $1. Okay, and I can put a dollar sign over here. So 100 pennies is equal to $1. So we put that decimal point there when we're dealing with money. Well, we have the number 248. So if I want to break this into find out how many whole dollars he has, well, I know he's got two hundreds. So we could say that that's how many dollars, Caitlin? Good. So 200 is then equal to $2. Excellent. All right, so what fraction, though, is left over after we've taken the 200? Chloe? That's right, 48 is left. So 48 is left. So basically, we have 200 whole dollars, but then we have 48 cents left over. Now, in order to think about this in terms of a fraction, because it said what fraction is left over, I mean, we've got 100 hundredths, which is our first dollar, right? And then we have another 100 hundredths out of 100 is another $2. But then we have 48 over 100, 48 hundredths, which is our cents, which is our fraction of a dollar. So this is how we're going to relate decimals and fractions together. Okay, so it's important to know that you can relate fractions and decimals, but only if the denominator is a 10 or a 100. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, because we're going to be dealing in terms of money. And so if our guy in our first problem had 248 pennies, we already decided that that would be 2 whole dollars and then 48 hundredths or 48 cents. So if we were to write this as a mixed number, for example, we're going to relate it back to fractions. So we have 2 whole dollars, okay, and then we have 48 out of how many, London? 100, that's right, because we're dealing with pennies. So we had 248 pennies, so he's got 2 whole dollars, because we know that each dollar is worth how much, Connor? That's right, 100 pennies. So 2 and 48 hundredths is how you would write this as a mixed number. Now, if I was to show and look at my tens or my hundreds blocks, if I was to shade in what 48 hundredths looks like, okay, we'll have our little hundreds, our $2 over here. So we got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so let's just pretend we've got our 2 over here. Our whole number 2, there, you're over there. But right now I want to close in on this 48 hundredths. So I know that each one of these is worth how much, Haley? That's right, 10. So each 10, so we've got 4 of those because we have 48. So there's 10. Nolan, what's the next one? 20. Very good. All right, Taylor, what's next? 30. Okay. And then Zoe? Okay. 40. Okay, so now we have the 40, but we've got this 8 here. So then how many of these little blocks in the next tens column are we going to shade? Gabriel? 8. Very good. So we'll color in 1, 2, count with me, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this is 48 hundredths, or this represents the 48 cents. Now, to look at it another way, we actually have 4 tenths, right? So if we had 4 tenths, so this one's going to be shaded in. That's 10, there's 20, 30, 40, right? Ooh, my marker's getting a little bit blended. So then how many of the hundredths are we going to shade in? Because we know that each of these represents tenths or 1/10. So we have 4/10 here, which is 40. And then how many of these little blocks are we going to shade in? Toby? 8. Very good. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So basically the same thing as this, except now we have broken it into tenths and hundredths. So the next part we're going to fill out here, it says 4,800, 48 hundredths. Don't forget that TH, hundredths, is how many tenths? Count with me, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right. So it's 4 tenths. Good job. And Colin, how many hundredths? Well, we broke the second part of our little thing into hundredths. Only that's right, Colin. Only 8 of them are shaded, so it would be 4 tenths and 8 hundredths. But this would be written as 48 hundredths because it's the same as this. Okay, but it's 4 tenths and 8 hundredths. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to write the mixed number 2 and 48 hundredths as a decimal in this place value chart below. So we know that we have 2, because if we are looking at, this is why we're showing this place value chart. Okay, the numbers before the decimal to the left are the regular old place values. So the next one would be the tens place, this would be the hundreds place, etc. Right? If we were to kind of extend this place value chart, that's what's going on. We are looking at fractions of the whole. Fractions of the whole in the sense that we are looking at fractions. In this part, we're looking about money, but it can be about anything. So we're looking at whole dollars. So we have 2 ones. We have 2 $1 bills if we want to think about it like that. So we're going to put 2 in the ones place. Now, after this decimal represents a fraction, basically. It's saying these are not parts, these are parts of the whole, but they're not a whole one. So we know that we had 4 tenths. Okay, and then Fiona, how many hundredths? That's right, we had 8 in our last picture. So we had 2 and 48 hundredths. Now, I'm going to teach you how to say this correctly because whatever place value your number ends in is the place value that you assign to it or that you call it. So we're going to fill in this bottom part here. So it says fill in the blanks to tell how to read this decimal. So in terms of money, we know it's $2.48. But in terms of reading it as a decimal, we say the whole number, we're going to write it in word form. Okay, should be 2. That's 2. The decimal point we always say is and. Everybody say and. And, very good. And. So 2 and. So the part that's less than 1 is 48. Okay, so we're going to write that in word form 2. 48. Okay, with a hyphen. But we have to then tell what place value it ended in. So it ended in the hundredths. So we are saying that we have hundredths. So you would read this in decimal form as 2 and 48 hundredths. That's how you would say that as a decimal. So here it is as a mixed number, and then here it is as a decimal. So we are relating fractions to decimals today. Okay.